Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. I am Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm the host of Rebel Roundup, our daily news and opinion show. And on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm joined by my real life best friend, Lise Merle from Regina, Saskatchewan. Lise, How's it going? What a crazy week.
What an incredible time to be alive, Canada. My goodness. This is going to be, I'm not exaggerating, this is going to be the most exciting, fun next couple of weeks that Rebel News has ever had. It's just, it's wild what's happening right now in our little corner of the world, isn't it?
Right. I'm exhausted already. I think we're 3 days in. Like, it's nonstop, and the media is the absolute worst in all of this. Their coverage should be considered a donation in kind to the Mark Carney campaign, especially on
Agreed.
this foreign interference stuff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's tell everybody what we're doing here, and then we're gonna get right into it because, whoo, boy, the pierogi is just packed today with all the filling. So, if you're watching us on Rumble, thank you so much for sticking it out over there. That's a great free speech platform. They let Rebel News and you speak your mind. If you want to get involved in the show and support the work that we do out of the goodness of your heart, and like what Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney makes you do with the unwatchable mainstream media, you can leave us a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we are obligating ourselves to read it and address it on air. If it's under the $5 US cutoff, we'll do our best to get to it, but no guarantees. But again, I'll do my very, very best. Now, if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you for being with us through the intense censorship over there. But good news, we are recently remonetized over there. As Ezra says, I think it's going to end in tears. But for the time being, if you want to support us over on YouTube, I mean, get in while the getting's good. You can leave a paid chat over there. It's called a super chat. If it's over the $5, I think it's $5 Canadian cutoff, we'll read it on air. And if it's under that, we'll do our best. And also, if you're watching the recorded version of the live stream later on, let's say you have a job and you can't get around to watching us till later, if you want to leave a paid chat, that's called a super thanks. And I'll just let you know, every little bit helps. And we are going to be busier than ever with journalists, just like a swarm of bees all across the country covering the campaign. So that's that. Let's get into the news of the day. First of all, Mark Carney, he agreed to doing the TVA, that's a French public broadcaster in Quebec. He agreed to doing the debate. And then something changed right after. But let's watch him agree to do the debate because it's ridiculous given what he does almost instantly right after.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney, c'est Fanny Olivier de Radio-Canada. Le chef conservateur Pierre Poilievre vous met au défi de participer au face-à-face de TVA. Est-ce que vous allez le faire?
Pourquoi pas?
Pourquoi pas?
Oui, pourquoi pas, oui. Il y aura.
Why not? Pourquoi? Pourquoi? Pourquoi oui? Of course. Why not? Yes. And then like he says like, oh, like a, why wouldn't I? Why would I be so scared? Like he even mocks the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And P.S., I just want you to know that that is about my level of French too. Like whatever French question you would put at me, it would be like, oui, pourquoi? Like, yeah, Mark Carney's level of French is about my level of French. But yeah, did he ever back out of that fast, didn't he?
Right away, he says, actually, no, I'm not going to do the French language debate after mocking the like the gall of the question that he would skip it immediately after. He's like, actually, no, I'm not. So somebody actually asked him about this. So there's a rare person in the mainstream media doing their job and not just licking the boots of Mark Carney. He does his best. Let's hear what he has to say.
In English, please.
Well, I said that, why not if we have a debate with all the leaders of the parties?
That's not what he said.
I now realize that the leader of the Greens were not invited. There are two leaders of the Green Party, as you know. As well, we have the debates, which I look forward to, overseen by the Electoral Commission. In French and in English, the 16th and 17th are the dates. I look forward to those debates, and I'll add that I have spent during my leadership campaign, I spent more time in Quebec than any other province. I'm going there in 2 days. I have engaged on. Je m'occupe sur les grands enjeux pour le Québec en ce qui concerne la culture, la langue française, la gestion de l'offre et plusieurs d'autres enjeux qui sont
That's enough.
uniques pour le Québec. Alors,
That's enough.
I'm
I
very
mean,
much out.
he's lying. We just all saw the clip. He didn't say, "Oh yes, yes, why not yes," but only if Liz May and her co-leader. Did you know there was a co-leader? I did not.
I did not either.
I was like, I saw the like leaders on a banner, and I was like,
And I was like, who is that?
who's
I
that
thought they
guy?
made I thought they made a mistake. Like I was like, oh, they put a placeholder random like stock photo in, and it's not.
Right.
That's Elizabeth May's co-leader of the Green Party. And so funny that Mark Carney is like, oh no, I cannot participate if they're not bringing, tequila, or not tequila, Sheila Cobbs, but drunk Lizzie May on the panel for the debates. Like it's just wild. It is just wild that would be the reason he wouldn't participate. But I mean, there is a guy who is that. But he is as boring in French as he is in English, which is a rare talent these days. It's a rare talent, you guys. So my goodness.
Yeah, I actually prefer the boring translator over him. You know what I mean?
It's like audio filter. Like you have to put him through an audio filter to be engaging. Yeah, because of the ums and ahs. I just love how people are roasting him on that. Doing the and ah count. We should be doing that on this program. Yeah,
I just don't want somebody to do it to me. I don't want somebody to do it to me because I know I realize I use filler words. But yeah, I had no idea there were two leaders of the Green Party besides old liquored up Liz and her flask of NyQuil. I didn't know who that other guy was. Mark Carney did not say, of course I'll do the leaders debate if you allow Liz and the other guy to participate in the debate. How is that supposed to work, by the way?
Yeah.
Pourquoi?
Well, and
Pourquoi
and if
oui?
we're and another like Maxime Bernier. Okay, I know that he doesn't technically have a seat, but he is the leader of a major political party, and so why would Maxime Bernier not be invited, and why wouldn't Mark Carney use that as an excuse as well? I mean, Mark Carney is just the type of man who is unaccustomed to answering the questions of regular Canadians, and I think that he thinks it's beneath him. I think that he thinks a lot of this is beneath him. Like, how dare you ask questions of me, you serfs, you feudal
Look
serfs.
inside yourself. Look inside
look inside
yourself.
yourself, Rosemary. That's right.
Yeah, like we're gonna have the second Green Party leader, and the Green Party support across the country is like a statistical rounding error. But so he's insisting on having them on the stage because that would make a valid debate. You know why? Because he then would have himself and Jagmeet Singh and then two other people all campaigning against Poilievre as though Poilievre is the prime minister and not Mark Carney. So he needs four guns shooting at Poilievre in a debate. That's what this is about.
That's exactly right. Outgun and outpace. But I mean, Canadians are seeing through this, so good for us.
Yes. We've got Poilievre responding to Mark Carney chickening out of the debate. Let's see this. Oh, we just need a second. She's digging it up. Yeah. I also think that Mark Carney is probably trying to avoid a flub in French. Do you remember from the leadership debate where he's like, yes, I agree with Hamas. And everyone's like, no, we don't, or maybe we don't say that out loud. Don't say the quiet part at the debate. So I think maybe that's why his French isn't strong enough to not say pro-terrorist things in the debate. But let's hear Poilievre responding.
You're right. Yep.
I want to challenge Mark Carney to show up for the debate at TVA in Quebec. He's running away and hiding because he believes that he's too weak to defend the lost Liberal decade or explain why he thinks Liberals deserve a fourth term. Let's have a debate in French where we put together the choice. Either a fourth Liberal term after costs and crime have gone up and our economy has gone down under the American thumb, or putting Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will build the homes. I'll even pay Mr. Carney's fee so that he can show up. We'll take that excuse away from him. Conservatives will even pay the fee to bring him out. He's not afraid. And by the way, if he is afraid to have the debate, how is he going to have the courage to stand up against Donald Trump? It's going to take someone who's strong enough to do that. And if he's not afraid, then he'll show up at that debate. I'm not afraid, and I'm ready to enjoy that debate with him. And one of the things we will be debating is the Liberal housing crisis. Because after the lost Liberal decade, housing costs have doubled. They've risen faster than in any other G7 country.
I also noticed today that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. I also noticed today that homelessness in the last 12 months has gone up a full 12%. So that's the Liberals. So if you want to re-elect them, you're going to get yourself even more homeless people.
And we're not talking people that would in any other capacity find themselves homeless. These are people that are pushed out of their housing by 4 million newcomers,
extra people.
Newcomers to the country. And then when they are homeless, they can't access typical supports that would get them sheltered again. Like it is crazy what the Liberals have done to this country, pushed old people and people living on the fringes of their budgets into homelessness. I mean, I know that I might have told this story before, but in Victoria, British Columbia, we were there last summer, and there was a woman on the streets with all of her worldly possessions in a shopping cart, and a storekeeper told us that she had just been homeless for 2 weeks. So imagine, a 70-year-old woman being pushed out of her housing to make way for newcomers to the country. It's indefensible what's happening. It is indefensible what's happening in this country.
Let's move on to the election interference stuff. First, we'll start with Elections Canada. They say, maybe we can dig up this clip. It was floating around yesterday. I'm not sure if Rebel News has it, but if anybody has it, it's us. Elections Canada held a press conference yesterday, and it was about election integrity. Even though none of the Hogue Commission, the Commission on Foreign Interference, none of their recommendations have been brought into force. Why? Because the Liberals prorogued Parliament in the middle of a tariff crisis so that they could shuffle out one guy and put in the next guy through a questionable process where 2/3 of the people who signed up were completely disqualified or otherwise prevented from voting, and where the numbers returned, as Ezra pointed out in his live stream, were just unbelievable. Just like too bizarre to even believe. But we're supposed to approach this with just pure confidence in both the Liberals and the electoral officials' ability to keep our elections safe from foreign interference. Now, yesterday they held a press conference to say that they've been in touch with social media platforms about election misinformation, whatever that means. Chief Electoral Officer Stéphane Perreault told reporters on Monday that he's reached out to social media sites such as X and TikTok to seek their support to make this election a secure election. And he says he's been satisfied with the responses so far. So I think TikTok is also Chinese owned, by the way. So there are several ways we do this, including what we protect the integrity of elections by removing harmful misinformation about civic and electoral processes, partnering with fact checkers. We know what fact checkers means. To assess the accuracy of content and labeling claims that can't be verified. So I think if they're talking about like deep fake AI generated stuff that directs people to the wrong polling station or shows candidates saying something they actually didn't say, okay, where it would, be completely misleading. I think I'm okay with that stuff not floating around during the election. But if it's like memes about Mark Carney and say Ghislaine Maxwell, I think that's stuff that we should be able to talk about during the election period. Although journalists asked the electoral officials yesterday, and maybe Olivia, you can dig that up, about, like, what do you want X to do, or should we ban X, or what are we going to do about X? Not like what are we going to do about TikTok, what are we going to do about Weibo, what are we going to do about WeChat, these Chinese tentacles that are, we know, spread dangerous misinformation in the last election period in 2021 and in 2019. Just ask Kenny Chiu in the Lower Mainland about the misinformation campaign that fomented on WeChat against him, and nobody's doing anything about WeChat. But they asked about X in that. But while Olivia digs that up, maybe I'll let you have your say.
Well, I think the most concerning part about that whole piece is that we have Canadian electoral officials reaching out direct to the owners of TikTok, which is the Chinese government.
Right.
And then it's being normalized by the CBC like this is something that routinely happens. It absolutely does not. If they were at all concerned about election interference by foreign entities, they would not have banned news on social media platforms in Canada. They would not be targeting X the way that they are. Like, we know that this is an attempt to silence dissent of mainly conservatives who have found a real warm embrace on the X platform. We know that is what they're doing because, like you said, Sheila, if they were at all concerned, they would be banning WeChat in Canada. They would be, or yeah, what is it, Sheila? It's WeChat, isn't it? They would be
WeChat
banning
and
TikTok.
Weibo.
Yeah, they would be banning TikTok in Canada during this election campaign. So this is just a really thinly veiled attempt to silence mainly conservative voices in Canada because they know what a huge influence X had over the American election. And the truth is, Canadians should be able to talk about this election, should be able to talk about the issues that matter to them, and these electoral officials should get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, they admitted during the Hogue Commission that one riding likely was flipped for sure in British Columbia, and I'm sure that's Kenny Chiu's riding. They didn't say it by name, but it's definitely Kenny Chiu's riding. Parm Baines is a Liberal MP because of it, and I think he has the audacity to sit on the ethics committee, and he helped whip up the misinformation that was spreading on WeChat about Kenny Chiu, and it was spread by Chinese state operatives about the foreign agents registry. And it was just, they were spreading misinformation that Kenny was somehow racist against the Chinese. And the Liberals said, yeah, he definitely is. And Kenny's like, But I mean, it's dumb enough for people to believe. Like, that's how the collective IQ of the people who fell for that is either quite low, or they are people who rely on WeChat for their news. And it's not news. It's Chinese state propaganda. This is not like X, which is in the United States, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the place of free speech and free expression and the free and liberal exchange of ideas. WeChat comes to Canada by way of a hostile foreign entity.
Yep. And yet that's not a problem for our Liberal government. But then again, we are going to see a lot of this. We are going to see a lot of this in this next couple of weeks. Just mark my words, Canada, where the Liberals do unprecedented and previously unthinkable things to silence their political adversaries. You just watch, because there is no bottom to the depths that they will sink to try and win this thing. They know that they've screwed us over for the last 9 years, and we're coming in hot and mad, and they are trying to hang on to power by any means necessary.
And let's just put a pin on this by saying we know that 8 or 9 parliamentarians, some of those are sitting in the Senate, were the recipients beneficiaries of foreign interference, and we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Now
Still.
I'll Parm Baines. if you're sitting in Kenny Chu's seat, I think you should raise your hand. But there's Victor O. There's Mary Ng, who they said was unwitting, and I actually believe that because I don't think she does much wittingly. So like, but there's a handful of others that Canadians are going to vote for, and they don't know who they are. And so I got a real tough time listening to elections officials say everything's secure and fine when we don't have those names yet.
Yeah, and be really wary of the people who are talking about Russian misinformation in this election run, because the Liberals are famous for projecting their own sins on their political opponents. So when they say, this person is spreading Russian misinformation, or that person or this agency or this media source is spreading misinformation, especially Russian misinformation, what they're actually doing is showing their cards. And I would just be real interested and careful about trusting those people, because they are, the most likely to be compromised by Chinese influence on the other side.
Yep. Olivia, did we find that clip where they ask about X or no? Oh, okay. Well, if you're following me later on in the day, people who are watching online, I'll see if I can dig it up and I'll repost it on my X account, because it was quite something. Because even the elections officials are like, no, we've talked to them, everything seems to be fine, and that's not a concern. So that's okay. I'm happy about that. It's just a shame that we're going to an election campaign without actually implementing any sort of fail safes that were recommended during the Hogue Commission. And then I wonder why I sat through, it feels like 4 straight months of testimony to have none of the recommendations implemented. So all the things that happened to Kenny Chu and the like that will happen again. And we just saw a very suspicious Liberal Party leadership. So why did I sit through what felt like 4 weeks of that, to not really know any names? Actually, we were told we're not going to tell you any names, and to have none of the recommendations take hold. How much did that whole thing cost for a zero-sum outcome?
Yeah, well,
but they know, cost me days of my life.
Well, months of your life. But they know that implementing those recommendations would harm the Liberal Party. This is why they're not doing anything ahead of the election. This is why they shut down Parliament. This is why there was no exposure on the green slush funds, or the ways that any of these people have targeted or have benefited to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars personally. There's a reason why this all happened, and why they're keeping Canadians in the dark in the lead up to this election. And we can only hope and pray that the majority of Canadians see through their thinly veiled attempt to steal it and keep robbing us, the Canadian taxpayer, of our hard-earned money, so that they can continue funding their, stuffing their own pockets. We can only pray that Canada sees through them this time.
Yeah, like the more I watch Mark Carney adopt conservative policies that the Liberals told you that you were somehow in the thrall of big business or a billionaire if you supported them, like they introduce the capital gains tax hike and then they roll it back. They introduce the carbon tax and then they present themselves as the saviors of us from it. They hike taxes and then they roll them back 1%. I hope Canadians can see that the Liberals, even if they were progressive and just green zealots, honestly, I would at least respect the honesty of it. But the more you watch them repeat conservative talking points, because that is popular now, while they told you that you were a climate denier burning the earth with your road trip just a couple of months ago, it should prove to you that their only ideology is power. They feel like they are entitled to govern over you.
Without question.
And that's it. They will do everything they can to hang on to power, hypocrisy be damned.
And
I feel like I would trust them in their sincerity, but I can't. You know, like Elizabeth May is
Yes.
crazy, but I feel like she's sincere.
Well, and another part of it is that when they are legitimately questioned on these about faces that they're pulling on us, just take, for instance, the carbon tax. Since 2018, they've been telling Canadians that the majority of Canadians get more money back than they put into the carbon tax. So when they were asked, okay, well, if we're canceling the carbon tax now because it's unpopular, well, what happens to all of those Canadians you keep telling us that are getting more money back than they were putting in? And the word salad that emerged from Mark Carney's mouth, like, my God, I've seen smaller word salads at a steakhouse salad bar, for God's sakes. He had no cohesive answer to that question. So they're backing off on policies that they've been telling us are good for us for the last several years, and then they have no good answer as to how this is actually going to benefit Canadians. It is nuts what's happening. It is nuts. But I think that it really goes to show you that stealing the Conservative platform, right? Listening to the people about all of their crazy misdeeds over this last 10 years is the only card they have to play. That is the only card they have to play, because what they've done, again, is indefensible. It is indefensible what they've done to our country.
I love when they say the Conservatives are dividing people, and then they're like, we need to get rid of the carbon tax that we brought in because it's too divisive. I'm like, that was your policy being divisive. How dare you accuse them of being divisive when you're rolling back a key party platform because it was divisive? That means you're the divisive ones. You are the ones bringing in the divisive policies that people hate, not them. They're not in charge. You are.
And let's just be real clear. They're not rolling back the carbon tax for consumers. They're rolling back what we can see we pay on the
then they're
carbon
hiding
tax. Exactly this. And this is such a move. I was reading last night on the World Economic Forum website where Carney details his entire plan several years ago that he's now unrolling as liberal ideas. And what he's going to do is hide it behind the huge industries that supply us with all of our products, all of our natural resources, all of our, our ag sector, our oil and gas sector. He wants to make it a part of the entire economic formula of Canada to build the carbon taxes. This is what I was reading. To build the carbon taxes into the industry. So it's not that we're not going to pay it. It's just that we're not going to see it being paid, which is just another example of the Liberals pulling smoke and mirrors to make Canadians poorer and make this a worse country.
Yeah, all that transparency is making the peasants angry. So we need to hide it.
Rightfully so.
Now, shifting gears just a little bit, but still on the Mark Carney stuff. Alexa Lavoie was out yesterday with the For Canada truck. Now, For Canada is the third-party advertiser that is founded by Ezra Levant, and it is registered with Elections Canada. And so if you want to donate to the work that For Canada does in the election campaign, you can do that at forcanada.ca. But since it was newsworthy, the For Canada truck, Alexa Lavoie was out on the streets to get reactions to the For Canada truck driving around the streets of Ottawa. It wasn't honking, so nobody called the cops. Well, maybe they did call the cops. I don't know. They were pretty upset with Alexa. Showing Mark Carney and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. And by the way, somebody mentioned today, like, how can you be a sex trafficker and not have anybody that you did that to, right? We know who she did it for, but who did you traffic to, right? We don't have those names yet, and I think that's weird. But anyway, Alexa, some people were not happy with Alexa. So let's watch this. First one, the lady, this one. Yeah. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
don't like about it?
Lies. It's
Huh?
all lies.
What is lies on this?
That he was with Epstein and Maxwell.
But you have a picture of them together.
That's not even him. It doesn't even look like him.
It's him.
It's
You
not.
don't find that on the picture
I'm
is
sorry.
not.
I used to be a journalist, and I'm not buying it.
It's not him. You're saying to me it doesn't like him at all.
No, the face is shorter. The chin is longer. No.
What?
So what do you think it is? That picture.
Some other guy. It's just some other
What
guy.
was the relationship? It's just what we want to know.
Oh, well, we need a truck driving around influencing
Because
people.
nobody's talking about it.
Because there's nothing to talk about.
But the fact
Do
that
your research,
they are
honey.
here, not only she actually ran away and accused me to not do my research about Mark Carney, but his dog just make a big poo on the ground and she didn't actually clean it afterwards.
Now, this story gets better. Kyle Kemper, Justin Trudeau's half brother, then messages Alexa and says, "That's my mom's friend." Like his mom,
Shut
Margaret
up.
Trudeau.
Shut up!
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, number one, I love Kyle Kemper. Like, I love him. I mean, there's just
He's
nobody
super
that I am
Captain
more.
Canada right now, but I think he's taking the
I
right
love it.
approach. Yeah.
Yes, he is. And like what's crazy is that he has like an extraordinarily close relationship with all of this stuff going. So that is a friend of Margaret Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's.
No, you must say it properly. It's
Sorry.
because she monetized the last name Trudeau, but her last name is actually Kemper, right? She was Margaret Sinclair Trudeau Kemper Trudeau because you had to go back to Trudeau because that's the name that pays.
Wait a sec. So what was it? Margaret Kemper something?
Margaret Sinclair Trudeau
Yeah.
Kemper Trudeau.
Okay. So Margaret's friend there doesn't believe that this is Mark Carney and his wife at his
Who's in the
wife's
picture?
yeah, at his wife's sister's house in Great Britain. That is where that photo originates from. It was reported in the UK press. They were photographed together at this. It's like a hedonism festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, a hedonism festival at the estate of his wife's sister. And this friend of Margaret Trudeau is saying it's not him. Oh, it's not him. It's not him. Oh my! And that doggy doo-doo Deborah here, okay,
Yeah.
tries to tell off Alexa and lets her dog crack on the sidewalk, and then
Of
storms
Ottawa.
off, telling her to do your research, honey. Oh, let's make her famous, Canada. Let's make this ex-former journalist famous. Just the best.
She's so convinced and yet so wrong. But we discussed this in the morning meeting today. I actually think that she knows that that's him.
Right.
But she's just adamant in her denial. I think these people are just so quick to peddle lies as it suits them instead of actually live in the truth.
That's disinformation. Doggy Doo Debbie. That's what we're gonna nickname her until maybe she's identified. But how embarrassing! While you're upholding this fallacy that it's not Mark Carney with Ghislaine Maxwell, your dog is literally laying it down on the side. I mean, I think that's a bylaw
And then to walk
infraction.
away.
I'm pretty
For
sure.
sure it is.
Oh, to storm away. She indignantly stormed away. That is the best video, Alexa. Well done. Well
it's
done,
so good.
honey. I love it so much.
The For Canada truck is making people crazy. And if viewers at home want to make sure that it continues to do the work of making people crazy, they can donate at forcanada.ca. I know the team at For Canada is working on some spicy stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, it's going to make a lot of people flip their lids, and I think that's the goal. Okay, we've got one more. Alexa was just ripping it up yesterday. she went to the Elbows Up rally, which is the dumbest slogan. As I saw somebody post on X, I mentioned it on the show yesterday. It's like elbows up, bone density down. Everybody looks like in their 70s, just plagued by osteoporosis. So she asked them why they showed up to this Elbows Up rally, which is supposed to be Team Canada. That's really the goal. And it's supposed to, they tell me it's supposed to unite people across all political parties and spectrums around a shared patriotism, which just 3 short years ago they told me was endemic of white supremacy. If you waved that flag, that's a dog whistle at white supremacists now. She asked them why they showed up, and she asked them about Trump endorsing Mark Carney. It's a great question, Alexa. Let's watch.
Canada's already great. Elbows up.
I didn't really follow the elbows up. Can you explain?
I don't have the
Not
audio,
really.
How did you react when he said that he would prefer to deal with a liberal and a conservative?
Olivia, sorry.
Given how he's been talking before about how he really liked the conservative government, personally, I think he's lying through his teeth.
Now we're saying elbows up. It means that we're prepared to fight, that you're messing with us, you're messing with Canadians. We're not standing for it. It's our call for unity.
Can I ask you what? No? Which leader do you think it would be the best to deal with Donald Trump?
Based on the ones we've got, I'm going to say Carney.
But Carney also moved the headquarters of Brookfield Asset Management to avoid the tariff before they were even applied.
Yes, and?
It's a pretty clear message to Donald Trump that he is not welcome here. And he can keep his fucking hands off my country.
Did you hear that?
Sheila, I can't hear you.
Check to make sure your mic's plugged in. Okay, well, we'll get that sorted out with Lise. But is that really a elbows up Team Canada rally that you saw there? Or do you think that that was more just a liberal, left-wing, progressive, white liberal busybody meeting in disguise? Because I would hazard to guess there was nary a conservative in the mix of that crowd there.
No, I don't think so either. These are people that are, I mean, that are the worst kind of Canadians, number one, because like people that throw elbows in hockey are the worst kind of goon, gross hockey players that just take cheap shots. And look, these are the cheap shot throwing Canadians in Canada. Yeah. Oh, bless her heart for just going into that snake pit. Bless her heart.
Yeah, like in their calling must defend against fascist regimes, never thought it would include the USA. That's because it doesn't, but like this sort of show of faux patriotism, dollar store patriotism here.
Yes.
Do you see there's like one of those like Canadian flags / pride flags there? If you look in the background of this, there's a Ukrainian flag. This is a very like left-wing, this is a Carney rally is what it is. And let's not pretend it's anything but.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody got their invite from their, their union captain at their federally funded, taxpayer funded, unionized jobs here, because that we know that all of the protests, save the parental right protests of 2023, are organized and funded by public sector unions in Canada. Like, I would not be surprised at all.
Now,
Now,
on the flip side, and I know I'm putting Olivia on the spot, I just saw this morning, the Boilermakers, so the private sector unions are coming out in support of Poilievre, which is sort of unheard of. And this is sort of the same blue-collar lunch bucket union crowd that propelled Trump to electoral victory, both in 2016, but also very recently in 2024. He promised to reignite the Chrome Belt, save it from being the Rust Belt. And in spite of Mark Carney going to like publicly subsidized steel mills, the steel workers and their unions are coming out in support of Pierre Poilievre. So that is something I don't think we've seen in a long, long time in Canada. But a long time ago, the progressive left abandoned the working class a long time ago.
Oh, a long time ago. Yes.
Yeah.
This is not the Labor Party that we knew in our youth, Sheila. Certainly not. They've adopted such a radical stance on so many things. And workers' rights are amongst, they're not even in their top 10 priorities for these public sector unions. No, it is a gross abdication of where they came from and what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, do you think a lot of the people in the Boilers Maker Union would be like, Jagmeet's my guy? You know what I mean?
Resonate. Yeah. No, Jagmeet is not gonna resonate. But so many of the initiatives that they've spearheaded and the things that they've got behind, whether it be advocating for LGBTQIA issues, whether it be advocating for climate action, whether it be none of these things have anything to do with organized labor or workers' rights. And this is part of the reason we're seeing a collapse of the NDP. This is part of the reason. So can't happen soon enough or to better people.
Yes. Let's keep going, because on the topic of the NDP, and we'll do these last two stories, Olivia, and then we'll hit a Rebel News ad break. Jagmeet Singh, this is from our friends at Juno News. Jagmeet Singh is unable to afford a campaign plane, forced to travel by bus. Just rolling coal in the diesel bus there. To match this is such a great sub headline. To match their declining poll momentum, the federal NDP and leader Jagmeet Singh will be hitting the campaign trail by bus instead of using a chartered jet like they have done in past elections. I love this. Now, we must recall for a time that the fundraising had so collapsed for the NDP that Jagmeet could not take the leader's top up. So this was before he was sitting as an MP. It was sort of in that area before he won the leadership, but he wasn't sitting as an NDP or MP yet. And he was not able to take the leader's salary top up that all parties give to their leader because there wasn't enough money.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see Jagmeet Singh in like a rickshaw or a tuk-tuk, a nice little tuk-tuk getting biked around the country. That's how little money the NDP will have. I can't wait for that day. I mean, a bus is still too glamorous for this guy. He deserves less. I'm not afraid to say it. He deserves less.
This is a wild story because this party has no money, but Jagmeet Singh is spending like it does. So the latest audited financial statement leaves the NDP having only $289,000 in cash. Ooh. To put this into context, between RRSP's TFSAs and non-registered accounts, the average 65-year-old individual has a savings of around $319,000. In the 2019 election, the party was required to put up assets as collateral, such as the Jack Layton building in Ottawa, to maintain liquidity and simply stay afloat. And this is with all the public sector unions backing them. As of its most recent annual financial statement, the NDP still had fully repaid a loan it took out to fund its 2019. Guys, there's a typo in here. To fund its 2021 election, which involved the chartering of a plane. The financially precarious position of the party hasn't prevented their leader from spending lavishly at the taxpayers' expense personally, though. As reported by the National Post, Singh expensed more than $500,000 over 9 months to run his constituency office in Burnaby versus Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who charged only $143,201. So that would be a ding to the taxpayer because that will go through the House of Commons, those expenses. So they have no money, but they'll spend hours.
Because they have no money, that is why it's being expensed through the House of Commons at the expense of taxpayers. That is why. I mean, I hope he gets audited. I hope he gets audited. Nobody deserves it more, and nobody deserves to be handed non-party status more than Jagmeet Singh and the federal NDP party for upholding the Liberal Party of Canada for the past several years, when Canada and Canadians have been screaming for an election. Never forget, Canada, this is the guy that kept those, those greedy slush funding
Corrupt.
liberals,
Yeah.
corrupt bastards in power for all of these years. So it couldn't happen to a better person or fast enough. I can't wait.
Now,
I can't wait to see the end of them.
this next article, if you step your toe into liberal Twitter or liberal X, you're going to see this everywhere. It's from Globe Politics. Says CSIS alleges India organized support for Poilievre's 2022 conservative leadership bid. And then you're supposed to believe that this was actually a dangerous thing. But this is what's in, this is in a Pointer article. Basically, they're saying that Patrick Brown, I'll share this to you. This is the real problem. So it wasn't so much that they organized support for Poilievre, but I think they helped scuttle Patrick Brown's failing leadership bid. So this is from December 6, 2024. Patrick Brown, under questioning, this is when Patrick Brown had to testify at the House of Commons Committee on the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security. He testified about the Indian government's involvement in his 2022 Conservative leadership campaign. Brown revealed that campaign co-chair Michelle Rempel-Garner received an angry phone call from the Consul General of India asking Brown to stop using the term Sikh Nation, which he would utter in front of Sikh audiences during his campaign, prompting him to change his wording. And so Liberal MP Jennifer O'Connell, who is insufferable to listen to, questioned Brown about the conference call in which Rempel-Garner shared the Consul General's disappointment about the term Sikh Nation that he had used. She asked who from the Indian consulate had influenced his campaign to change his language. Brown did not answer, instead launching into an explanation of why Rempel-Garner left his team. First of all, he said, "I don't believe that's the reason she left the campaign," referring to a media story that cited unnamed team members who said the Indian interference drove Rempel-Garner away. Anyways, he said, "The concern was raised that I had used the term on several occasions, Sikh Nation, that the Consul General had expressed it directly to MP Rempel-Garner." So I think the concern is less that there was influence by the Indians into Poilievre's campaign, but rather they were sort of fed up with Brown's use of inflammatory Sikh separatist language when addressing Sikh communities, and the Consul General gave him a ring, because I don't know I think that's what the Consul General is supposed to do, I guess. I mean, I don't think there was anything quite improper about that. If someone was in New York making statements about, like if a politician in New York was making statements about the FLQ during the time of the FLQ crisis, I imagine Canadian officials would give him a call.
Right. Just a quick sort of language correction. Hey, this isn't being appreciated by some of our bigger trading partners, so maybe just cool it a smidge. That's what happened. But CSIS is also the organization and the institution in Canada who said that parental rights advocates are at risk of committing violent acts, and then went and wrapped their entire building in a humongous multi-100-foot Progress Pride flag. So are we really trusting what CSIS says right now? Like, have they done things that have earned your trust, Canada? And I would venture a guess that Canadians would say no. This is a corrupt and captured institution that has done nothing but chase DEI initiatives over the last several years and have rendered themselves untrustworthy to the Canadian public. So again, when you're looking at liberal media in Canada, you have to see past what they're trying to say to you, and typically it's the exact opposite of what they're trying to say to you, and the message that they're trying to convey. They're lying. That's what they're doing.
I got a real tough time again taking foreign interference speculation from the people who told us we're not going to know who was contaminated by foreign interference. And if you actually read the article, which is stuck behind a paywall, it becomes an absolute nothing burger, because if you are a thinking person, you'll be like, wait a minute. So let's read this. It says CSIS did not have evidence that Mr. Poilievre or members of his inner circle were aware of the alleged actions of India's agents and their proxies, said the source, who has national security clearance to see top secret reports. Globe and Mail is not identifying the source because they were not authorized to disclose classified information publicly. Okay, hang on to that point there. CSIS did not share this information with Mr. Poilievre, the source said. Oh, okay. Because he does not have the necessary security clearance to access secret documents and receive classified briefings on foreign interference activities in Canada. Mr. Poilievre is the only federal party leader who has declined an offer to obtain security clearance. But members of the Conservative Party who were running the campaign, the national campaign, did have people who had security clearance.
Right.
Poilievre doesn't take the security clearance because he doesn't want to be gagged on specifically this issue.
Right.
So they never told the Conservative Party who did have security clearance. So this is according to this source. Now, this is such a nothing burger because CSIS spent years being ignored by the Liberals about foreign interference. If you watch the Foreign Interference Inquiry, you'll know that to be true. But they didn't even notify Poilievre until the election was called on this thing. Or at all, I guess. Now, who is the source and how much are they being paid to say this to media and no one else? And that is an important point, because the source wouldn't release the information to Poilievre because he didn't have the security clearance, but he has no problem releasing the information to random newspaper guys.
To the Globe and Mail?
Exactly.
Like,
okay?
Make it make sense. Make
exactly.
it make sense.
Yeah. And somebody else on X says, the real news here is that CSIS apparently has employees willing to talk to a national reporter during an election campaign about classified information that they were not authorized to disclose publicly, but will not so they actually have no real intention of preserving the election. Why they're doing this is to hurt Poilievre, because if you were worried about election integrity, you would have told Poilievre, but you told the media instead.
That's right. But never doubt the desperation of a public institution that is trying to hang on to their DEI initiatives. I have learned this over and over and over. When you have a public institution that's been corrupted by DEI initiatives, you just cannot fathom the depths of the depravity that they will sink to defend their very cushy positions. And CSIS is absolutely guilty of this. They are absolutely guilty of this. So this is an institution that's facing a certain change if Pierre Poilievre becomes prime minister. Certain change, because he says he's done with the woke, he's done with the crazy, the crazy activist classes that work within our bureaucracies. I think that he's looking at reining in some of these unaccountable bureaucrats that are doing damage to our country, and CSIS is absolutely one of them. So what is their motivation to do this, to try and sink his ship? Well, it's self-preservation. It's self-preservation.
Right. It's the same reason the CBC publishes glowing Carney articles.
Yes.
It's self-preservation. This is the same security agency, that said that they told the Liberals that the Freedom Convoy did not rise to the level of invocation of the Emergencies Act.
Right.
And then tried to twist themselves into knots to justify the Liberals' invocation of the Emergencies Act, even though the communications were there and they were forced to testify under oath. So they kept saying, well, it was helpful. Yeah, I bet it was when you got to ignore the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to take people on moonlit rides out of town. Yeah, I bet it was helpful, but was it legal? No. Should you have done it? No. So, you know what? There should be a reckoning with that agency. But yeah, you've got people making leaks to reporters because it damages Poilievre, but not actually making leaks to Poilievre, who could make steps to make sure that this doesn't happen. So I question the motives there. And yeah, it wasn't like they were there to help Poilievre. The foreign interference, all it did was hurt Brown, and Brown was going to lose anyway.
Right.
Catastrophically. I think we should take a Rebel News ad break. And if you guys have some chats, things you have to say about what we've been saying, let us know and we'll get to them when we get back from the break.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before. And we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
Hey, do you remember how the media party talked about our Canadian flag during the Freedom Convoy of the truckers? They hated it. They hated them singing our anthem. These are the same people who stripped John A. Macdonald off the $10 bill. But now that Mark Carney is campaigning against Trump's tariffs, suddenly Canadian patriotism is cool again? I mean, look at this.
Everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed. Because when we are united, we are Canada strong.
Funny how that works, but I didn't need tariffs or approval from politicians to stand with Canada. You know, I've been a flag-waving patriot for a while, including when the truckers went to Ottawa. Still am now. That's why we just launched a new merch line called I Didn't Need Tariffs to Start Loving Canada. I like this one with the trucker protest imagery. It reminds me that these now proud, woke liberal Canadians that, well, they're a bit late to the party, and I don't believe them, by the way. Get yours now at rebelnewsstore.com.
Alrighty, I see that we've got a couple of quick little chats. We've got one from Abu Ben who gives us $20. Says, ladies, when he said that he supports Hamas and then was corrected immediately by other actors in the leadership race, he gives Palestinian $100 million when everybody knows Hamas will take most of it. He's literally said, we agree with Hamas, and everyone else is like, no, what?
We agree with Hamas 100 million times is what he meant. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, that's what he meant. I mean, this is where your tax dollars are going, Canada. It is insane.
Into terror tunnels. Into terror tunnels where they can hide Israeli hostages. Like, they could have said, we're going to give you $100 million to rebuild if and when you turn over those hostages.
Yeah, they could have done that.
They could have done that. They didn't.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
Whenever we're looking for our federal government to do the right thing, just trust them to do the exact opposite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got another chat from Alberta Dawn, who says, real world inflation in Southern Alberta. We used to buy 2 large cans of coffee on sale for $19 at Sobeys. Today, 1 can goes on sale for $18. The Liberals need to be gone. Yeah, that's wild.
It is wild the way things have increased in price. Yes. It's
One more chat
staggering,
for
really.
it's crazy. Like my grocery bill has doubled in the last few years, completely doubled.
Oh yeah. No, I did a Save on Foods order in 2017. Okay, 2017. And there's a button where you can just go reorder everything. And the bill was almost 3 times as expensive as it was in 2017. 3 times as expensive. It was like $170 then, and it was nearly or just a little over $500. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wild.
believe it. I believe it.
Wild.
I've got children who are food furnaces. We've got another chat from my friend Craig McDonald, who gives us $20 and says, "Careful what we wish for. If the NDP ceased to exist, most NDP voters would go vote Liberal. Look back at every federal election since the 1980s, add NDP and Liberal Party votes, and they will form majority every single time." I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the reasons why we had a strong, stable, Conservative majority government under Stephen Harper, who was boring but had charisma, strange mix, was that Thomas Mulcair wasn't a crazy person. Now, I know that I would disagree with him on just about every policy position he would ever take, except he agrees that Poilievre should not be taking that security clearance because it will gag him on issues of foreign interference. But on everything, I think I disagree with Thomas Mulcair, but he wasn't an absolute lunatic. He was a champagne socialist, and he leaned right into that. And because there was a vote split on the progressive side, Stephen Harper was able to form a majority. And as Conservatives, we should actually be cheering for a strong NDP federally. Heck, I would even encourage Rachel Notley to run for the NDP leadership federally after Jagmeet Singh destroys it, because she checks all the identity boxes that NDP voters care about. She's from the West. She cracked Fortress Alberta. She's a woman. She's from a legacy NDP family. They would love her federally. I hope she runs, because that vote split, Conservative majority instantly.
Yeah, that's
You're right.
true. That's true. I just want them to suffer a little bit. Like,
I do.
I don't
They
think
deserve to wander in the wilderness. They do.
Yes, I want them to suffer just a little bit, just a smidge. A humiliating defeat this time, and then back
Completely.
to
I want them to run out of diesel on the bus because they don't have any money left and they're stranded in the middle of nowhere, and some oil patch worker shows up with a slip tank full of diesel from the rig and fills them up. That is my dream scenario to happen to the NDP in this election.
Leave it in your prayers.
Somewhere in between, somewhere in between Bonnyville and Bigger, Saskatchewan.
Right.
I want them to run out of fuel, and some guy has to show up with a slip tank of rig fuel and top up the NDP bus.
Yeah,
That's what
I don't
want.
think they're going to be spending that much time in Western Canada, though, Sheila. I really don't. No, I don't think we're going to see a lot of Jagmeet Singh's.
I'm just dreaming. I'm just dreaming. I know.
NDP loser bus, but yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
We've got a quick ad read if you will permit me to pay the bills, and then I want to talk one more thing about foreign interference. It wasn't on the official schedule, but Conservatives this morning dropped a bomb on the Carney campaign, and I think we should talk about it, because there's another reason Parliament was prorogued, and it's because they had this information, the Conservatives did, and the Carney Liberals didn't want it raised in the House of Commons. So if you have a dog, we've all been there. Our pup goes from full of energy to sick and miserable in an instant, and of course at the worst of times. And we're calling vets in the middle of the night or on weekends, trying to find a clinic that will take us in. It's a terrible way to manage your dog's health, not to mention your stress levels and your monthly budget. That's why people are getting the Pet Emergency Kit by Positive. It contains critical medications and supplies that can not only keep you out of the veterinary office, but may even save your dog's life. Their kits contain critical medications like activated charcoal, styptic powder, and more. It might save your dog's life. Head on over to positive.com, and that, of course, is spelled the cutesy way, PAWSITIVE.com, and use code STUDIO to get 15% off your pet emergency kit. I think we just had another chat come in. It's from Temporary Broken. This was based on a chat from yesterday. WCB accepted my injury for my surgery. Very quickly, my case manager was removed from her position. Then WCB told me that the cortisone injection that I received was a surgical correction. Benefits ended. I don't know much more about your story, but I know you've been giving us chats to read on air, so I will continue to do that. We've got, let's go into this because, yes, Olivia, that is exactly the clip. Dropped this morning, about 20 minutes before we came on air. Carney has some very hinky investments with China. He was put on the Prime Minister's economic task force. Then he went to China. Then Brookfield got some contracts with the state. So Pierre Poilievre lays it all out.
There's something that's really been worrying me. After Justin Trudeau named Mark Carney his economic advisor, giving him massive power over public policy in Canada, Mr. Carney went over for meetings in Beijing where he just had secret talks with the deputy governor of the Chinese central bank. 2 weeks later, Brookfield got a $250 million loan. What did they talk about? What did Mr. Carney in his role as Trudeau's economic advisor offer China? Why would he be having secret meetings with top government-controlled bankers about getting a $250 million loan while he was supposed to be acting in Canada's interest as the Prime Minister's economic advisor? Why would he be collaborating with a hostile foreign regime that we have since learned executed 4 Canadians and took numerous Canadians hostage for a lengthy period of time? And given that Mr. Carney knows that he still owns massive financial interests in Brookfield, which owes $250 million to a Chinese state-controlled bank, how do we know he's not going to act against our interests in favor of his financial interests? Why didn't he stand in front of this microphone and confess to Canadians that he owes the Chinese government that kind of money? Is this why he's covering up his financial interests? And given that China has murdered our people, taken our people hostage, how is he ever going to stand up to foreign interference when he is so financially compromised? We have never in our history had a weak, out-of-touch leader so terribly compromised and conflicted, whose interests go against our national interests. And I call on Mr. Carney right now to come before a microphone today and explain if this loan is still in place and if he still has those Brookfield assets that he had up until a few weeks ago. Because we cannot trust someone. Could you imagine, while you're supposed to be advising Canada's Prime Minister on the well-being of our economy, going to a foreign regime that had executed Canadian citizens, taken Canadians hostage, that it had already been public that they had interfered in multiple elections. They've done incursions into our northern waters. Mark Carney will never be able to protect our national interests because he has massive financial conflicts of interest overseas. What we need now is not to give the Liberals a 4th term with a weak and compromised leader. What we need is a Prime Minister who will put Canada first for a change.
That's crazy.
Pierre Poilievre that I know and love. Like, this is gloves off stuff, guys. This is gloves off. That Mark Carney didn't immediately divest of his Brookfield stock or any interest that he had in that company before becoming Prime Minister is staggering. It is staggeringly corrupt. But that he didn't, and then stands in front of microphones and tells Canadians, oh, well, I'm following all of the rules of the ethics commissioner. Well, who makes the rules of the ethics commissioner? It's been you guys for the last 9 years. I mean, This is crazy stuff. This is absolutely insane.
Well, I think Mark Carney never thought that he would be in the position he's in right now. I think these guys never knew how unpopular Trudeau would be. And so Mark Carney was happy to use his position as Trudeau's economic advisor
Yes.
to enrich Brookfield and skirt the letter of the law, because technically he was working for the Liberal Party and not for government, so that he could get outside those ethics rules and continue to make bank. I don't think he ever realized that he would be in the position he is right now, as in, I don't think he ever thought that he would be the Prime Minister of Canada, but everybody else was so deeply unpopular and too politically contaminated by being the Chrystia Freeland cackling face of bank account seizures and the smoldering economy. He was sort of the guy behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, right? Pulling the levers. And so now he's out front, and I think he never even gave a thought to having to explain his financial spiderweb to anybody ever. And if you look at the timeline, it's crazy. So in September, Mark Carney got to work lining his pockets instantly. In September, Mark Carney officially became the chair of Trudeau's task force on economic growth. In October, Mark Carney met with the deputy director of the People's Bank of China. And I think that was like in his official capacity. Yeah.
That's damning. That's damning. Another way to look.
Wait, it gets worse. 2 weeks later, news broke that Brookfield had secured a $250 million loan from the Chinese state-owned bank. Now he owes a hostile foreign regime. His interests are against Canada's interests, and he won't reveal to Canadians all of his conflicts. I think the Conservatives know, and they're going to be dropping these bombs for weeks, because Carney is not going to tell people.
Oh, wait for it. And another way to look at it is one of the main reasons why Mark Carney would not have pre-divested of his interest in Brookfield is because he doesn't believe he's going to win. He doesn't believe he's going to win, because he had to throw all of his assets in a blind trust. So he can't legally know what's happening to his money or his investments as it pertains to Brookfield or any of his financial interests. And one of the main reasons why you would not divest in advance of becoming the installed Prime Minister of Canada is because he doesn't believe he's actually going to win. So it's really, I think that we should be paying a lot of attention to the deals that Mark Carney is making in these interim weeks, because the agreements that he's making right now are not in the best interest of Canada, nor does he have a mandate to make them. But I bet you they would be in the best interest of Brookfield. I bet you.
Yep, for sure. Let's move ahead to talk about crime, because I know it's in the headline and we're going long. Mark Carney put out a video yesterday about the plague of Islamophobia in Canada. Boy, if Islamophobia is a problem, I hope you can find the people who've been in charge for the last 10 years that allowed it to foment to the extent that it has. But this is his tweet. Charges laid after police say hijab-wearing woman was attacked in an Ajax, Ontario library. The woman who is arrested is 25. She's accused of trying to light another woman's hijab on fire at a library on Saturday. And Mark Carney says Islamophobia is real, it's dangerous, and it must stop. Look, this is an attack targeted at an openly Muslim woman, but I'm not sure that this is the real motivation. If we get into the details of this person, I offer my support and prayers to the victim of this terrible act, and I'm relieved that the police acted quickly and made an arrest. Is the woman out yet? Because she was out on bail when she did this, and this is why this woman is a one-woman crime spree, and she just attacks everybody. regardless of their religious or political stripe. Because, as Poilievre notes, he wants jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders, in contrast to the Liberals' catch and release policies. Let's show this, because we'll get into some details about what we know about the woman who is apparently Islamophobic, and she very well could be, but we know more about her than Mark Carney is leading people to believe.
In nearby Ajax, a Muslim woman was recently attacked at the Ajax library. She was totally innocent, and she was attacked by a monster, a nasty perpetrator who once again had been released. This is a person who had been released after threatening people with a machete, but after she pleaded guilty, she was sentenced not to jail, but probation. This is the increasingly common story after the lost Liberal decade of crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. Electing the Liberals to a fourth term in power will only mean that crime and chaos will run rampant here and everywhere across the country. What we need is a government that puts law-abiding Canadians first for a change by making sure that repeat offenders become permanently ineligible for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. It will be jail, not bail. Jail, not bail when I'm Prime Minister. Yeah, you agree with that? Absolutely.
So that maniac was out on the streets after attacking people with a machete just like 4 or 5 months ago. And Mark Carney doesn't want you to believe that this is a crime problem, because the Liberals just catch people and release people, and they've made it easier than ever to get bail unless you are a member of the Honkening. Then you'll go to jail for 50 days. He forgets to tell people that part. He wants you to believe that Canada is a hateful, awful place, full of bigots and extremists and radicals and racists, because the alternative is Liberal policies on crime are making people unsafe. Muslims, Jews, and everybody else.
Yep. And just and another part of this story that I don't think was covered by anybody is that this happened in a public library in Canada, and increasingly we are seeing public libraries of becoming a catch-all for the worst parts of humanity, because they let anything go in public libraries in Canada. Anything goes in public libraries. And this is just another part of the story that's sort of glossed over in this, is should Canadians be safe to visit public libraries and publicly funded institutions without the threat of violence or harm coming to them? And I think Canadians expect that they should be able to do that. And yet this is the society that the Liberal government of Canada has created for us. It is so sad.
I'm glad you brought up the public library thing, because the public libraries, thanks to the policies of progressive big city mayors, are basically unusable to anybody who's not a drug addict or a transient. Somebody on our team points out that this area of Ajax is about 10 minutes down the road from where he lives. And he said it's downtown for a suburb, but it's also one of the areas where drugs and homelessness is most prevalent. So this is a decay of our major municipalities, thanks to the Liberals in the federal government and their soft on crime policies. And then these progressive big city mayors with their apologists for drug use, violence, and lack of mental health supports. They just think that it's the best thing to do to leave people drug-addled living in an encampment where they can brandish machetes at people and light hijabs on fire.
Yep. Yeah. And in urban centers, especially in winter, what's consistently open for warming and shelter? It is the public library. And so that story in itself, an act of overt violence in a public library in Canada, is not unique. What is unique is Mark Carney's crap take on the entire thing. I mean, I think we can all agree that people that wander around in public with machetes are up to no good. And yet this person was released after doing that. Like released after doing that. That in itself says that you have something really terribly mentally unstable happening in you. And this is not a person that should have been allowed back on the streets of Canada, and especially not into a public library. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they were charged with mischief or anything. They had a machete in October.
Yeah.
Now, I think our last story, I'll skip over some of the other stuff. We can get to it tomorrow, whatever. The last story I must discuss with you, and it is from, I think I'm springing this on you. This is from Brian Passafume, who writes for the National Post or Toronto Sun, or both, National Post, Calgary Sun. He said, and he put this on his X account, I'm at the hospital for a routine test this morning, and I was asked to provide an organ inventory. Now, I instantly heard this, and I was like, I think that's what Communist China does to the Falun Gong when they go in for treatment. Like, oh, 2 kidneys, we'll take one while we're here. But he said, which I assume is a long and drawn out way to avoid asking me what gender I identify as. And then he put a screenshot. Please specify the organs that you currently have. Breasts, no. Cervix, no. Ovaries, no. Uterus, no. Vagina, no. Penis, no. Prostate, or sorry, penis, yes. Sorry, Brian. Prostate, yes. Please specify which organs were present at birth or expected at birth to develop. They're acting like people's biological sex is somehow a birth defect. Breasts, no. Cervix, no. Ovaries, no. Uterus, no. Vagina, no. Penis, yes. Prostate, yes. Testes, yes. Glad to hear. This is the state of a modern hospital in Canada right now. We are an absolute joke.
That is an absolutely incredible questionnaire. That could you instead of
male,
the old
female,
question, yes, with sex, male, yes, no, female, yes, no. They go through this song and dance.
We used to do this with a box beside an F and a box beside an M, and then you just put a line through it. Instead, it's 2 pages of this and politically correct DEI jargon.
This is the new "what are your pronouns" question. So instead of asking you your sex, and then they evolve to what is your gender and what pronouns do you want? This is just the next iteration of that.
This is the next iteration. You can put in your Twitter bio or in your X bio, my organs that were present at birth or expected at birth to develop. Uterus, yes. Cervix, yes. Ovaries, yes.
Insane. And just for the record, Canada, you are paying for these radical gender surgeries.
This questionnaire probably cost $100,000 to develop.
Oh, without question, Sheila, without question. None of this comes cheap. All of it comes at the expense of the taxpayer. And yeah, this is just the next iteration of what are your preferred pronouns. Like, my God. And like, it doesn't even give you the option of skipping, like, and just checking the male or female boxes. Like, you have to answer these questions. It is crazy. This is crazy. Please specify. But it is, you know what? It is concerning. It is concerning when they were like, tell us what organs you have. Tell us what organs you have.
That's when I first read it. I was like, are they doing the old like maid checklist? What parts do you have that are still good in case your appointment goes poorly?
Yes, like that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh God, Brian is so funny too. He's like,
I would trust no medical institution that asked me those specific questions. None whatsoever. None. Zero.
Like, people are like, do you still have the baseline inventory you submitted at birth? Like, it's I can't even believe this.
That is wild. Oh, I like that one. They're checking you for spare parts in case your visit goes extremely poorly.
Yeah.
No kidding.
They can have my ovaries. I don't think I've ever used them.
I read somebody that I read a post on the internet once about if you want to know how invested the government is in your kids, try try unsigning them up to be an organ donor, and then you will realize how invested your government is in your
Yucky.
kids. And I went, that's interesting. I should try and unsign up just to see the process.
I am.
Yeah, because I don't want my government knowing what organs I'm currently in possession of. I'm cool with them just, doing my eye tests or whatever I'm there for, but the rest, it's concerning.
I am paying, I don't know about you, very close attention to the electricity of the Chrystia Freeland re-election campaign. I don't know if you saw like the campaign office kickoff where it was like her and two people, and I think one of them was just a passerby on a bike who
I
just
did
couldn't
not
get
see
out of
it.
the frame fast enough. Anyway, now she's out door knocking, and all of these people sort of look like proof of life hostage photos. Loved meeting and chatting with my neighbors in University Rosedale, I think it is. And look at these people. They're just like, oh my God, she's at the door. It looks like this is all
Oh,
the same apartment building based
it
on,
does. The trims are the same. The trims are the
yeah,
same.
the peepholes. So this was just one, but sometimes she looks like the hostage, but sometimes they look like the hostage. Anyways, I
Meanwhile,
pay very
they just
close
think it's
attention.
yeah. How rude awakening would that be if you just thought it was your DoorDash order showing up, and then it was Christian
This is
Freeland just
Freeland.
twitching away on your welcome mat? Oh, I'd chase her away fast. I'm great at that
Yeah.
though, chasing
Where's my
politicians
Mexi
off their
fries, Krista?
Oh goodness.
Yeah, this was the
Oh
one from
goodness.
this is her campaign launch. And so can you feel the electricity?
1, 2, 3, 4 people. Yep, there's 4 people there. Well done.
See, I think that lady was just walking by.
Oh my
And
goodness. Hey,
then there's like these two guys. And I think
yeah,
this is one of the other two guys.
just on their way to the public library being like, I got harassed by a little shrieky lady with a bunch of flags.
Do you know what?
Huh,
That's
that's
what you have
bad.
to put up with when you go to the public library.
That's right.
So we just
That's
talked
right.
about that.
Hey, who has my van in that photo? Did you see that? My
Probably
Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van in that photo? That's a nice
it's the
van.
needle
I wonder
exchange
whose it
van.
is.
It's the needle exchange van. It's fine.
It's true though. It's what they spend your
Oh.
taxpayer dollars on is luxury needle exchange vans. Yeah.
Yep. We got one more ad read, and if there are any chats, you guys put them before we sign off. But let me pay the bills one more time. This is from 1775 Coffee. Week coffee is for the week, and at Rumble, week has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 Coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it mattered. Forget stale, mass produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness and vitality. Mushroom blend, real energy and lasting focus. No synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole bean, or ground fresh coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. Use code STUDIO for 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 cash. You'll need it because the crazies will probably attack you. If we don't have any chats, I think we'll wrap up right at this minute because it is 12:30 Mountain and also Saskatchewan time.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Rebel Fam. There's nothing I enjoy doing more than this. And we will see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow.
Yes. Thanks everybody who pitched in. Thanks to everyone who works behind the scenes at Rebel News to make sure the show is there for you whenever you want to watch it and to call for all those weird random things that I call for in my stream of consciousness. We appreciate everybody who gives a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News and our sponsors as well. And as my friend David Menzies always says, although he, I think, does neither on most days, stay safe and stay sane.
Tonight, we're going to battle in the election as journalists, but also as a third-party campaign group. It's March 24th, and this is the Ezra Levant